My name is Rachel Berman, and I'm joined here with my colleagues Amy Hunter and Ruth Matilla. Our location is Makoko, which is a slum in Lagos. Our utility is power distribution.
We are basing our recommendations on commitments that the government has made. They've committed to ensuring that tariffs are full cost recovery. They've committed to securitizing the industry and providing partial risk guarantees for the distribution company. They've also committed to a massive investment to strengthen the grid for about $35 billion over 5 years. So based on those commitments, our recommendations are to begin with a multi-stakeholder approach to bring consumers into this world of commerce. We're going to recommend that the government subsidize the connection costs because we see that as a barrier to entry, and advanced meter infrastructure, which will enable the utility to be financially successful. And we're going to recommend linear tariffs.
Makoko is a slum of about 300,000 to 400,000 people. It's made up of semi-permanent shacks made of almost anything they can get their hands on stilts on the actual lagoon. Their settlements, they're unplanned, so they don't have any rights from the government, including land tenure. The overarching agency is the Presidential Action Committee of Power. The Nigerian Electricity Reform Commission is the regulatory arm. There will be 18 companies, 6 generation, 1 transmission, and 11 distribution. From here, what we want to concentrate on is the Lagos Distribution Company, which is called ECO. And what we want to see ECO do is work with an intermediary. What we want the intermediary to do is work with the slum community, the distribution company, and also the government.
They're operating at a deficit of about $126 million. Part of that is owed to losses due to non-payments and also high operating costs. They have staff base about 3,800. They distribute about 1,500 gigawatts per hour of energy, and they have about 280,000 customers. It's going to cost about $187 million for the grid extension to be able to bring it to Makoko. And so we're proposing that ECO pay for this. It costs about $200 for the one-time connection fees, and we want the government to pay for that $200. Middle to high income populations spent about $7 a month on electricity, and the $5 for the maintenance of the meter. And that's quite high. And so the proposals that we are putting forth, we're hoping can be both socially viable and also help the company to be financially viable.
Right now, the competition for the distribution company is what the people are doing to make up for the fact that they don't have a reliable energy source. So the first thing is illegal tapping. From that, the utility actually receives a 3 to 5% loss in their own utility fees. What the privatization plan is proposing is 12 cents per kilowatt hour. The current expenditures, $7 a month. So it's $7 that they're using. They can get about 60 kilowatt hours, which is actually more energy than they are going to need. There'll be decreased expenses for the resident because they'll be getting the same amount of power as before for less money. And there will be increased efficiency for the utility because they will not need to tap into steal inefficient power.
The high connection charge is insurmountable for our population. And a one-time capital subsidy that would subsidize the poor and accelerate the expansion of service will, in the long run, be much more expensive for the government. And if you instead provide a one-time subsidy to all the households that would then be put on the grid, it would amount to about a 0.35% of GDP. And it also ends after a decade. So financially, it seems to make more sense. So our two, I think, most important policy mechanisms are the implementation of an advanced metering infrastructure. We've recommended linear tariffs, but in the future, this system would allow the utility to actually offer them cheaper pricing at different times of the day. And the land tenure recommendation is critical to the utility being willing to go in and establish the service.